Hello everyone, it's Oliver Harper here, and this is the Patreon Q&A for March. So let's crack on with the questions.
We all have a movie where we got on the hype train only to have our expectations completely crushed. Mine is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Which is yours?
That's a good answer actually, Indiana Jones 4. Possibly Matrix Reloaded. The hype for that was through the roof. People coming out going, it's the best one. Better than the first one, and I was deeply disappointed when I saw it in the cinema. Great visual effects and action scenes, but I thought the plot was a bit ridiculous, and the sort of ending was a bit lackluster. So yeah, maybe that one.
Hi Oliver, would you and Richard consider doing a special episode of Fix It in Post for the Hulu documentary Batman and Bill? It's an amazing piece that, much like Bill Finger, deserves more recognition. 2. As a fan of Street Fighter, have you seen the Street Fighter Red Tape skits by Pete Holmes on YouTube?
I've seen the documentary. I thought it was very good. I don't think Richard has, so I'll have to pass it on to him and see what he thinks of it. But it's not out of the question. We can do it. The Street Fighter skits, I have seen a couple. I didn't think they were that funny. I think Pete Holmes is a very good comedian. I think his Batman impression is incredible. It's spot on. But yeah, the Street Fighter stuff I didn't really get on with.
I know you're a big fan of soundtracks, Oliver, but is there one that moves you more emotionally more than any other, that perhaps sends you back to a moment of your childhood whenever you hear it?
There isn't anything that sends me back to my childhood, really. Maybe something like Dark Crystal, the sort of opening overture of that. That bit, you know, that kind of throws me back to being a child. And emotionally, Somewhere in Time score by John Barry just is incredible. That would make anyone cry. So probably those two.
Would you ever do podcast discussions on films that might have been? I find these what-if scenarios fascinating, especially reading some abandoned scripts, films halted in pre-production or stuck in development hell. Scripts such as Total Recall 2 or Commando 2, which ended up being repurposed and turned into Minority Report and Die Hard respectively.
Well, the Commando 2 script was never actually repurposed as a Die Hard script. Stephen E. D'Souza does clarify that. There's an interview with him actually online. I've got the book, The Greatest Movies You'll Never See. That kind of has everything on, like, all the films that were going to be made and never got made. Things like Gladiator 2 and Superman Lives and yada, yada, yada. I'm not sure if it would... I think the whole subject could be a podcast, but you couldn't do one movie because most of them don't really get off the ground. There's only a few bits of information kind of leaked, so you have to do a lot of research to find out, you know, to say discuss Joel Schumacher's Batman Triumphant movie, something like that. The one he's going to do like more, I think he was going to do a Batman Year One kind of version, or Total Recall 2, for example. You have to find quite a lot of information to sort of create an interesting discussion to make it worthwhile. So I'll have a chat with Richard if he has some ideas about possibly doing something on like that. Yeah, we'll crack on with it.
Did Doctor Who ever play a part of your life? Would you consider a re-retrospective of Enter the Dragon this year for the 45th anniversary, or do you feel you said all you needed to in your original?
I think I've said everything I need to say on Enter the Dragon. I'm not really... I haven't really thought about going back to it to do a redux or a retrospective. I think the commentary would be good fun. I'd like to do that. Doctor Who was never really part of my childhood because Doctor Who had finished at that point. Parts of it was in the 80s. I saw a couple of episodes, but when he came back in the 90s, that sort of TV pilot, that didn't go anywhere. And then when he, you know, the later series were kind of reinvented Doctor Who and brought it back to the mainstream. I saw a couple of episodes, but the ones I kind of watched were on UK Gold, like kind of repeats of the old episodes from the 70s. I thought they were really good, but it was never really my thing, as I've mentioned before. I think me and Richard's more of a fan of Doctor Who, and we did a podcast ages ago. But I think anything like Doctor Who specific for this channel would be done by Richard.
Is there a film that you hated on your first viewing but went on to love it in later viewings?
I have answered a similar question before. To me, there hasn't been many films that I've watched and hated then suddenly loved later, or even the other way around, I don't think. So not really. I mean, if a film is really bad or really annoyed me, the second viewing is not going to suddenly make me think, oh, this is suddenly amazing. It'd have to be, I don't know. There's some things I can take from a bad movie, like a good soundtrack or one good performance, or there's a really cool kind of visual effects. But overall, if it's a bad experience, then I probably won't enjoy it more on second or third viewing.
Do you have any plans on doing retrospective reviews on George Romero's Dead films, Night, Dawn and Day? this year as a way to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Night of the Living Dead. Perhaps maybe as part of Halloween month. Commentaries on both Dawn and Day would be cool as well. Also shout out to Richard, great work on your George Romero tribute video, loved every minute of it.
Well, Richard and I have already done commentaries on Dawn and Day of the Dead, so you need to go back and check those out. In terms of covering the George Romero movies, as I say, retrospective, I'm not entirely sure, but Richard's already done, you know, as you say, you've pointed out, you enjoyed Richard's video on Romero's work. I don't know. It's not really crossed my mind. Maybe at Halloween I'll create a list and see what kind of sticks and see what gets dropped by the wayside. But maybe something on like Day of the Dead, because that's an interesting movie.
Which of the two companies do you think puts out the best Blu-ray sets, Arrow Video or Scream Factory?
Arrow are probably better with the quality of the pictures and overall branding and sort of packaging. But I think Shout have the better titles, I think, for me. Arrow very much is on the sort of kind of horror movies and very niche ones as well, where it's got a small audience, but they're going to, you know, flock out and buy it. I like things where Shout Factory get licenses from MGM and Universal, where you've got like the Darkman stuff and you've got Escape from New York, you've got John Carpenter series. Where Arrow have done a few of those kind of movies like Big Trouble in Little China, and there's a few canon films they've thrown out, but they focus more on the horror stuff. I think they should focus on like a wider kind of catalogue of movies, like different genres, more action and more sci-fi, but that's just me. So probably Shout for their movies, but Arrow for their sort of quality control.
Hey Oliver, if this RoboCop sequel proceeds, would you be open to having Robert Burke reprise the role if Peter Weller cannot?
Peter Weller won't come back. Robert Burke probably would. I'm sure he'll be up for it. I wouldn't say no. I think if he had the opportunity again, he would do a good job with it. I think because his voice wasn't modulated well when they did it, they were supposed to. So yeah, maybe. I wouldn't say no to it. I think it'd be a good laugh to see him as RoboCop. He was the second best RoboCop. So
I agree.
Hi Oliver, what do you make of Tom Cruise making a sequel to Top Gun? Apparently it starts filming in the summer. 2. Have you seen Altered Carbon on Netflix?
Top Gun 2 is way too late. I don't know why he's doing it. It's cool to have him, you know, flying a plane again, whatever. But Tony Scott, you know, he's no longer with us. He would have made it what it was supposed to be, and I don't know who they'd replace him with. Maybe like Michael Bay. I don't know. But yeah, they don't need it. I mean, because Top Gun's also part of the '80s and its soundtrack. You couldn't have those type of tunes anymore with the sequel. People would complain. It would say it sounds dated. So you'd have to have like a whole different sound mix, and it wouldn't be Top Gun without that music. Second question, Altered Carbon. I watched the first episode the other day, and I thought it was pretty good. So I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the series.
Hi Oliver. Any chance you would do a retrospective on View to a Kill or Octopussy? I love the Roger Moore Bond films as they are what I grew up watching.
They're not out of the question. I need to do more Bond retrospectives, just haven't had the time to do them. If I do another James Bond retrospective, yeah, I did. I'm sure I promised A View to a Kill one ages ago, but I didn't get around to doing it. So I'll do A View to a Kill as the next 007 retrospective.
Hello Oliver. Are there any overused lines in movie dialogue that make you cringe? For me, it's "What is this place?" I hate it every time I hear it. Also, have you seen the film Death Trap? It's a great Christopher Reeve and Michael Caine movie.
Lines I despise. I always laugh when people go, "Oh my god," in like trailers or even films. When they always use it in trailers, don't they? But when you see it in the film, it's just like, oh my, yeah. I was just about to say it. Yeah, that's probably the cheesiest and most annoying line to throw in. Cliche crap. Death Trap. I do own Death Trap. I own a pan and scan DVD I got from America years ago. It's got an awful Warner Brothers cardboard case. It's a very good film. There were a lot of complaints at the time because a lot of parents didn't want to see Christopher Reeve, i.e. Superman, kissing a man. Because Christopher Reeve turns out to be, he's a gay, I think, what was he? He's a theatrical performer or poet or something like that. And they planned to kill Michael Caine's wife so they can be together. Yeah, very good film. But yeah, I'm not something I've watched for a while though. But yeah, it's one of Chris's early performances outside of Superman.
Hi Oliver. Outside of the over-reliance on CGI and similar soundtrack scores, i.e. Zimmer themes? Is there anything you find annoying or bothersome in a way that movies are being made today? Another question, are you and Richard and or Duncan going to do a commentary on Galaxy Quest?
Galaxy Quest will happen with me and Richard. Maybe Brad, because it's part of the whole... Because we're supposed to be doing Star Trek Into Darkness, and then... Well, we're supposed to do Galaxy Quest earlier, because it's in the sort of timeline of release dates. But yeah, we will do Galaxy Quest. Other annoyances in films, it's really, I suppose, just watching Pacific Rim Uprising, it's kind of seeing the sort of cliched moments you see in other films where it's the same character traits, the same kind of scenarios they put in, and you think, oh, I've seen this all before. But that happens in a lot of movies I do love, so it's always difficult to sort of pinpoint what's going to be the most annoying thing. As someone said earlier, was what my worst sort of line in a movie. That will be something like, oh my god. Yeah, it's difficult. It depends on the movie. It really does. It depends on the scenario and how it's been used. And, some people can get away with using the same thing they've done before, but in a different kind of context. So yeah, it's a difficult question to. It's difficult to provide a kind of straightforward answer to.
Oliver, I'm sure you're sick of me already, but my question is, do you plan on doing a commentary after watching King Arthur: Legend of the Sword?
Yes. Well, well, I'm gonna watch King Arthur once I cover Excalibur, because just out of sort of curiosity, really. So yeah, if the movie is bad and hilarious as you've implied in the past, then me, Richard, will certainly cover it, and possibly Duncan as well.
I already know your issues with modern film scores, but what are you just flat out sick of seeing in films today?
I suppose seeing movies trying to set up sequels, at the end of the movie without kind of doing it subtly. I like it when the movie can stand on its own, not be just kind of stepping stone to something else. It's like, you can only get a sequel. The movie's saying, oh, we're going to have a sequel. You think, well, no. Your movie's got to do well first before you can decide to have a sequel. The audience can decide that by, paying to see it. So, yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm not a huge fan of. I like it when it's kind of subtle, like the end of Batman Begins, when he gives them the Joker card. And it's like, yeah, there could be a sequel, but, the movie stands on its own. It's got a start, middle, and end. It's not a start, middle, and a kind of washy ending that's going to lead on to something else.
Just booked to see Raiders of the Lost Ark, which as well as showing the film, it will be accompanied by a live orchestra. Which two movies would you like to see with a live orchestra? One Williams, one other.
Williams, Superman the movie, easy peasy. And the other one, maybe David Arnold and Stargate. That's a really good score. Possibly Jerry Goldsmith and First Blood, or James Horner and something like Star Trek 2. That'd be good fun. No, Kroll. James Horner and Kroll. Fucking amazing.
Do you feel Netflix needs to up its game regarding quality control for its movie division? The series are obviously world class, but recently with Bright, Cloverfield and Mute, are they in danger of damaging their image longer term?
If the movie is produced by Netflix from the get-go, this is not the studio dumping the movie on Netflix. If it's produced by Netflix from the get-go, then they need to have a producer in there to sort of rein the director in, not give them so much control and creative freedom that it completely alienates its audience. I think that's kind of what happened on Mute. I think it needed a producer there to sort of, have some, creative control to sort of lead it in a different direction. Because that's the beauty of Netflix, is giving directors a voice and letting them produce, anything they generally want. But yeah, I think they need to rein it in a bit and have a bit more control over some of these directors who may be going a bit too far in the wrong direction.
What are your thoughts on Danny Boyle directing the next Bond film?
Very good choice if it is all official. He's already had a quick stab at Bond for the Olympics, involving the Queen as well, which was fucking awesome when I saw that. So yeah, I have no problem. Danny Boyle's a great director, and he's done so many different genres, and he can tackle them very well. And he has I think he's well versed in that kind of James Bond stuff, and I think he hopefully has a good pitch to present to MGM or Sony or whoever who are controlling Bond.
We've seen many movie remakes of beloved stories told and retold. Hamlet, A Christmas Carol, Spider-Man, Fahrenheit 451, etc. What would be your favourite 70s or 80s movie or book, or young adult book, that the current younger generations would benefit from a modern remake or retelling? A couple for me would be Where the Red Fern Grows or A Day No Pigs Would Die.
I would like to see George Orwell's 1984 brought back onto the big screen and kind of retold. I love the book. I thought the book's incredible. And the movie, I thought, from the 80s was okay. There's a lot of it didn't quite hit certain points, like the emotional structure to it, and the ending was a bit like, well, the end is downbeat anyway, but I mean, it didn't quite capture the sort of what I saw in the book. So something like that. I think George Orwell's book and in its themes and what it talks about, the scares of what's happening in the future, is so relevant today. So yeah, I think more people need to be educated on the powers that be who are going to be watching over us, and our kind of privacy being invaded and things like that. So yeah, that would be my choice. Well, everyone, that is the end of the Patreon Q&A. Hope you enjoyed it. Next review we've got coming up is Ready Player One, and Richard's new series, Fix It in Post Flashback, should be on the YouTube channel very shortly, where Richard and Brad cover Attack the Block. Okay, everyone, take care, and I'll see you all next time.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to gain early access to my retrospective reviews, episodes of Fix It in Post and commentary podcasts, you can pledge to my Patreon. Thank you.